A centuries-old gate in Jerusalem, sealed shut since 1541, is at the heart of a viral uproar. Millions now claim it is mysteriously moving, and some insist this is the sign Jesus is about to return. Prophecy, geopolitics, and internet hysteria have collided, leaving believers and skeptics struggling for answers. But is there truly a miracle unfolding at the world's most contested threshold, or just the latest twist in an ancient promise? The real evidence tells a story that will challenge everything you think you know. A vision unfolds on the banks of the Chebar River, far from Jerusalem's stone walls. The prophet Ezekiel, exiled among his people in Babylon, receives a message that will echo through centuries. In the book that bears his name, chapters 40 through 48 describe a future temple, a city restored, and the glory of God returning from the east. Yet it is a single gate, facing the rising sun, that draws the prophet's gaze. Ezekiel writes, "Then he brought me back to the outer gate of the sanctuary, which faces east, and it was shut. And the Lord said to me, This gate shall remain shut. It shall not be opened, and no one shall enter by it, for the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it. Therefore it shall remain shut." The words are stark. The eastern gate is closed, not by human decree, but by divine command. Its closure is not a punishment nor a mere architectural note. It is a sign that the presence of the Lord has passed through, sanctifying the threshold. No ordinary person may enter, because the glory of God entered there. The gate stands as a silent witness to a moment when heaven touched earth, and now, by God's own word, it must remain sealed. Ezekiel's vision is precise. The closure is not permanent for all time, but until a future moment when the Prince, the Anointed One, will approach, offering worship. Some scholars read this as a literal prediction for a future temple, others as a symbol of God's unbreakable promise. In either case, the gate's closure is not a human act of exclusion, but a divine declaration. Only the Lord, or one chosen by Him, may pass through. The prophet's words have shaped centuries of expectation. For Jews, the sealed gate faces the Mount of Olives, the place where the Messiah is expected to arrive. For Christians, it evokes the return of Christ in glory. Every stone in the eastern wall, every layer of mortar, carries the weight of this vision. The gate's silence is not emptiness, but anticipation, a testimony that what God has closed, no power on earth can force open except by His will. Ezekiel's prophecy stands at the heart of Jerusalem's mystery. Before legends of sultans and soldiers, before viral videos and modern speculation, there was a prophet who saw a gate closed by the command of the Lord Himself. The story of the Golden Gate begins not with politics or rumors, but with a vision of holiness, separation, and a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Centuries after Ezekiel's vision, another prophet gazed toward Jerusalem's eastern horizon. Zechariah, writing in the late 6th century BCE, described a day unlike any before, a day when the Lord Himself would stand on the Mount of Olives, just east of the city. The words in Zechariah chapter 14 verse 4 read, "On that day His feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two from east to west." This prophecy fixed the world's attention on a single axis: the city, its eastern gate, and the mountain facing it. The Mount of Olives rises above the Kidron Valley, directly opposite the sealed gate. For Zechariah's audience, this was more than geography. It was a promise, that divine intervention would break into history from the east. The expectation took root in Jewish tradition. The Messiah would enter Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, crossing the valley, passing through the eastern gate, and bringing redemption with him. For Christians, Zechariah's vision resonates with the hope of Christ's return. The Gospels describe Jesus ascending from the Mount of Olives, promising to come again. Early church writers, like Eusebius, linked this prophecy to the Messiah's triumphal entry and his future return. The East became a symbol of new beginnings, resurrection, and the dawn of salvation. The connection between the mountain and the gate is not accidental. The line runs straight from prophecy to stone, from Zechariah's words to the very threshold sealed in Ezekiel's vision. Over centuries, pilgrims and scholars have stood in the valley, looking up at the closed arches and the olive trees beyond, wondering when the promise would be fulfilled. This expectation shaped the city. Burial plots on the Mount of Olives multiplied, as generations hoped to rise first when the Messiah arrived. The Eastern Gate became a focal point for longing and debate, its silence a canvas for faith and speculation alike. The anticipation built into the city's very landscape, drawing the eyes of believers eastward toward the place where heaven is foretold to touch earth once more. Zechariah's words endure, echoing through liturgy and longing. The city waits, the gate remains shut, yet the promise stands. One day the Lord will approach from the east, and the sealed threshold will not hold him back. In the spring of 1541, the city of Jerusalem witnessed a transformation that would alter its eastern skyline for centuries. Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, ruler of an empire stretching from Budapest to Baghdad, ordered his engineers to seal the ancient gateway facing the Mount of Olives. The work was swift and thorough. Masons filled the twin arches of the gate with thick stone and mortar, blending the new barrier into the city's fortifications. The eastern wall, already battered by earthquakes and the passage of time, now stood unbroken, its most famous portal closed to the world outside. Suleiman's motives have stirred debate ever since. Ottoman records from his reign document a sweeping campaign to rebuild Jerusalem's walls, prompted by fears of attack from the east. The Safavid Persians, long-standing rivals to the Ottomans, threatened the empire's borders. Bedouin raiders, too, posed a constant risk. The eastern approach to Jerusalem, open and exposed across the Kidron Valley, was seen as a vulnerable point. Military logic prevailed. A sealed gate was a strong gate. The city's defenses took precedence over tradition or ceremony. Yet legend quickly took root among Jerusalem's diverse communities. Jewish and Christian residents, deeply familiar with prophecies from Ezekiel and Zechariah, whispered that Suleiman's act was more than mere strategy. They told of the Sultan's advisors, warning him about the ancient promise that a Messiah would enter Jerusalem through the eastern gate. Some claimed Suleiman, wary of such prophecies, ordered the gateway blocked to prevent any fulfillment. Others pointed to the Muslim cemetery already established along the wall, suggesting it served as a further obstacle to any priestly figure in line with Jewish purity laws. These stories, rich in symbolism, flourished in the absence of explicit statements from the Sultan himself. Modern historians, examining the available evidence, find little to confirm a direct theological motive. The surviving Ottoman firmans, imperial decrees, focus on the practicalities of fortification, not prophecy. Chronicles from Suleiman's court describe the reconstruction of the city's walls in broad terms, listing towers, gates, and repairs, but say nothing of messianic fears. Archaeological studies of the gate's masonry reveal nothing unique in its ceiling, just the standard Ottoman technique of stonework and lime mortar used elsewhere along the walls. Still, the power of the symbol endures. The act of sealing the eastern gate, whether born of caution or calculation, became a symbol of human attempts to control the flow of history. The stones laid by Suleiman's builders did more than close an opening. They set in motion centuries of speculation, hope, and debate. The city's eastern face, once a threshold for pilgrims and processions, became a silent challenge to prophecy. If the Messiah is to come, let him find his way through stone and centuries. Rows of weathered gravestones stretch along the eastern wall of Jerusalem, pressed close to the sealed arches of the Golden Gate. For more than 1,000 years, this ground has served as a resting place for generations of Muslims. The cemetery began to take shape in the earliest days of Islamic rule, with burials recorded as far back as the 7th and 8th centuries. Over time, it grew into one of the city's oldest and most revered Islamic cemeteries, its presence woven into the daily rhythms of life around the Temple Mount. The placement of graves in front of the gate was not a sudden act or a single ruler's decree. Archaeological surveys and historical records show the cemetery's steady expansion through the Ayyubid and Mamluk periods, long before the Ottomans sealed the gateway in 1541. By the time Sultan Suleiman's masons bricked up the arches, the cemetery already formed a quiet barrier along the eastern approach. Ottoman documents and Waqf land records describe the site as an established burial ground, maintained for the honor of local families and scholars, not as a calculated obstacle. Yet legends took root in the city's imagination. Jewish and Christian traditions, drawing on ancient purity laws, began to interpret the cemetery as a deliberate barrier. According to the Torah, contact with the dead brings ritual impurity, preventing priests from passing through a graveyard. Over centuries, this belief found new life in stories that the cemetery was placed to block the Messiah's arrival, an apotropaic line of defense against prophecy itself. These accounts, popular in 19th and 20th century writings, painted the cemetery as a second wall, not of stone but of ritual defilement. Modern historians and archaeologists, however, point to a different reality. The graves follow the patterns of Islamic funerary practice, honoring the sacred precincts near Al-Aqsa Mosque. No inscriptions or archival records mention a messianic motive. Instead, the cemetery's growth reflected the needs of a living community, its expansion shaped by faith and tradition rather than fear of an ancient promise. Still, the symbolism endures. The cemetery stands as a visible threshold, one that is both physical and spiritual. For many, it materializes the tension between human tradition and divine intent. The graves before the gate are silent witnesses to centuries of hope and uncertainty, their presence adding another layer to the city's prophetic drama. In the landscape of Jerusalem, where every stone and pathway carries meaning, the cemetery is more than a place of rest. It is a reminder that barriers, whether of stone or ritual, cannot ultimately stand against the purposes of God. Midway through 2025, a surge of online activity drew the world's attention to Jerusalem's eastern wall. YouTube channels with names like Prophecy Watcher and Signs of the End began uploading dramatic headlines such as "The sealed gate of Jerusalem is moving," and "Is Jesus about to return?" Clips spread across social media at breakneck speed, gathering hundreds of thousands of views in days. The style was urgent, with bold fonts, flashing arrows, and ominous music. Each video promised exclusive proof, often claiming the gate stones had shifted overnight, or that cracks were widening before viewers' eyes. The volume was staggering. In just a few weeks, dozens of new uploads appeared, each recycling snippets of the same grainy footage. Some channels spliced together shaky smartphone videos from tourists, while others looped older news segments or prayer hall disputes from years before. The effect was a digital echo chamber, amplifying every rumor. One channel claimed, "The world's media is silent, but we have the truth." Another insisted, "Muslims are converting by the thousands. This is the sign." The language grew more sensational with each upload. Phrases like "divine warning" and "Islam in shock" dominated thumbnails. View counts soared as viewers shared links in prophecy forums, WhatsApp groups, and Facebook pages dedicated to end times discussion. Some videos passed 1 million views in under a week, with comment sections filling up with speculation, prayers, and calls to repentance. The sense of urgency was palpable, a countdown, a challenge, a promise that history was about to change. Creators leaned into the hype, often appearing on camera with wide eyes and trembling voices. They urged viewers to wake up and prepare, tying the alleged movement of the gate to global unrest, wars, and natural disasters. Donation links and merchandise offers appeared beneath the videos, inviting believers to support the cause or buy T-shirts with the Golden Gate silhouette. Many channels reported spikes in followers and revenue as the narrative of a moving gate fed into broader themes of prophecy and imminent redemption. The phenomenon was not confined to English-speaking audiences. Translated versions in Spanish, Portuguese, and Arabic appeared, each adapting the story for local contexts. In every language, the core message remained that something extraordinary was happening in Jerusalem and the world needed to take notice. The rapid spread of these videos outpaced any official response, leaving viewers to sift through a flood of claims, counterclaims, and sensational headlines, while the actual gate remained as silent and sealed as ever. Online, the story had taken on a life of its own. Rumor became reality for many, not through evidence, but through repetition and spectacle. The digital age had transformed an ancient prophecy into a viral sensation, blurring the line between faith, hope, and hype. Sensational headlines sweep across screens, each more urgent than the last. Islam in shock, gate moves, Muslims convert. Jerusalem's miracle, thousands turning to Jesus. The narrative is everywhere, amplified by bold text and dramatic music. For viewers, the message is clear. Something supernatural is unfolding, and it is shaking the very foundations of faith in the Middle East. Beneath these headlines, stories begin to circulate, personal testimonies often anonymous, describing dreams and visions of Jesus. Some claim to have left Islam after witnessing signs or feeling an overwhelming presence. The details are vivid. A man in Iraq recounts a dream where a figure in white calls him by name. A woman in Iran describes a sense of peace she never found before. These accounts appear in video interviews, blog posts, and comment sections, each adding fuel to the growing sense of expectancy. Evangelical ministries seize on these stories, sharing them in newsletters and broadcasts. The implication is unmistakable. The movement of the gate, whether real or rumored, is sparking a spiritual awakening among Muslims. The impact ripples outward. Social media algorithms reward the most dramatic claims, pushing them to the top of feeds. Channels that specialize in prophetic news see a surge in subscribers and donations. Some report monthly revenues in the thousands, driven by ads and urgent appeals for support. Merchandise appears, T-shirts and mugs emblazoned with images of the Golden Gate, slogans promising hope or warning of judgment. The sense of crisis becomes a business model, with every new testimony or headline driving another wave of engagement. For many viewers, the combination of prophecy, personal transformation, and global upheaval is irresistible. Comment sections fill with prayers, declarations of faith, and questions about what to do next. The line between fact and faith blurs as anecdote becomes evidence, and evidence becomes conviction. Even as experts and authorities remain silent on any physical change to the gate, the digital narrative grows stronger, shaping perceptions far from Jerusalem's walls. The reach of these stories is not limited to English-speaking audiences. Translations spread across the Arab world, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. In each language, the pattern repeats: dramatic claims, personal testimonies, calls to conversion. The narrative adapts, but the core message remains: change is coming, and it is unstoppable. Amid the noise, a quieter trend unfolds. Reports from mission organizations and research groups track a steady rise in Muslims embracing Christianity, often citing dreams or visions of Jesus. Open Doors and Operation World estimate thousands each year, especially in regions marked by conflict or repression. These conversions rarely mention the Golden Gate directly, but the stories are quickly woven into the tapestry of prophecy, reinforcing the idea that ancient promises are being fulfilled in real time. The viral movement creates a feedback loop. Claims of the Gates movement inspire testimonies, which in turn validate the headlines. For those caught in this current, the need for truth grows sharper. Are these stories evidence of a miracle or the product of hope and repetition? The next step demands a closer look, separating what can be verified from what is simply believed. In early 2019, a series of tense confrontations unfolded inside the Golden Gate complex, known as Bab al-Rahma. Palestinian Waqf officials, backed by local worshippers, reopened the interior prayer hall for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Israeli authorities, citing security concerns and past restrictions, responded with arrests and renewed closures. The standoff drew international headlines, but the focus remained on the interior, a vaulted chamber accessible only from the Temple Mount, not the sealed exterior archways facing the Mount of Olives. Footage from these events quickly spread online. Smartphone videos captured crowds praying, police entering the chamber, and activists waving flags inside the ancient hall. News outlets and social media accounts documented the back and forth. Doors unchained, carpets rolled out, then metal gates locked once more. The images were compelling, filled with emotion and urgency, but they revealed nothing about the massive stones blocking the outer face of the gate. Throughout the turmoil, the exterior remained unchanged. Its twin arches have been sealed since 1541, unbroken by any visible force. By mid-2025, these same clips resurfaced in a new context. Prophetic YouTube channels, eager to link current events to biblical signs, began recycling 2019 footage as evidence of supernatural activity. Grainy shots of worshippers inside the prayer hall were paired with dramatic narration and claims that the gate itself was moving. Some videos zoomed in on centuries-old cracks in the stone, suggesting fresh fissures or shifting blocks, while others looped scenes of police and crowds as if documenting a miraculous opening. The narrative blurred the line between interior access and exterior movement, inviting viewers to see ordinary disputes as extraordinary fulfillment. Prophetic. Careful review of the original footage reveals a clear timeline. The interior chamber was briefly opened, then resealed by authorities, with no official reports of structural changes to the gate's facade. No credible archaeologist, engineer, or government agency has confirmed any movement of the exterior stones in 2019 or since. The viral videos draw their power from repetition and editing, not from new evidence. As these clips circulate, they become the foundation for much larger claims. Those claims demand closer scrutiny as the investigation turns to the question of physical proof. Modern science offers powerful tools for watching ancient stones. In Jerusalem, the Golden Gate's stability is not left to rumor or speculation alone. Engineers and geologists rely on remote sensing technology to track even the smallest changes in the city's historic walls. Two of the most advanced methods, INAR, interferometric synthetic aperture radar, and terrestrial laser scanning, called TLS, make it possible to measure movement down to the millimeter, year after year. The emphasis is on stability. INSAR uses radar satellites passing high above the old city. By comparing images taken days, months, or even years apart, scientists can detect shifts in the ground or walls that are invisible to the naked eye. Persistent scatterer techniques focus on stable reflective surfaces, like the limestone blocks of the Golden Gate, enabling researchers to build a precise record of vertical and horizontal motion. Across Jerusalem's Old City, this method has revealed micro-settling in the ancient walls, typically less than half a millimeter per year. None of these studies, however, show displacement at the Golden Gate itself. The data confirms a baseline of stability, even as minor tremors ripple through the region each year. The key word is precision. TLS brings the analysis closer to the ground. Surveyors set up laser scanners in the Kidron Valley, capturing billions of data points across the gate's facade and the surrounding cemetery. Over time, repeated scans create a three-dimensional map, allowing experts to check for any bulging, cracking, or misalignment in the masonry. These high-resolution surveys have become standard for monitoring heritage sites worldwide. Where access is possible, TLS has mapped the Golden Gate's exterior and adjacent wall segments, producing a digital record that matches historic photographs and architectural drawings. The result is clear, and the evidence is consistent. Official agencies, including Israeli, Jordanian, and international bodies, have not released any alerts or engineering bulletins about movement at the Golden Gate from 2019 to 2025. No seismic event in this period has been strong enough to disturb ancient masonry. While viral videos point to cracks and shadows, sensor data and technical reports tell a different story. The gate remains as it has since 1541, sealed, silent, and unmoved by time or tremor. For those who seek evidence, the verdict is unambiguous. The sensors speak, and their message is stability. Layers of stone and centuries of construction lie beneath the sealed arches of Jerusalem's eastern wall. To understand the Golden Gate's true age, archaeologists turn to the blocks themselves. Their size, shape, and mortar tell a story that legends cannot. Field specialists like Lean Rittmeyer have traced the masonry's history by comparing the gate's fabric with other structures around the Temple Mount. Masonry studies reveal patterns in technique and tool marks. The lowest courses, buried beneath the modern cemetery, show rough-hewn ashlars that match the style of the First Temple period. These ancient stones, massive and irregular, form part of a wall line that once marked the city's eastern boundary, likely dating back to the time of King Hezekiah in the 8th century BCE. Above these foundations, the wall straightens and the stones become more uniform. The lower visible courses bear the signature of Herodian craftsmanship, large, well-cut blocks with distinctive marginal drafting, similar to those found in the western wall. Archaeological surveys suggest that a ramp or staircase once led from the valley up to a gate here, providing access to the Temple Mount in the late Second Temple period. Yet the superstructure that dominates today's skyline does not belong to Herod or Solomon. Most scholars agree that the present double-arched facade was built in the early Islamic era, during the Umayyad Caliphate of the late 7th or early 8th century CE. Umayyad decorative moldings and finely dressed ashlars reflect the ambition of rulers like Abd al-Malik, who reshaped Jerusalem's sacred precincts. Some debate lingers over a possible Byzantine phase. Certain arch profiles and capitals hint at 6th century workmanship, perhaps from the reign of Justinian. But the absence of Christian iconography and the close fit with Umayyad architectural trends tip the balance in favor of an Islamic origin for the current gateway. The blocking stones that fill the arches are unmistakably Ottoman, set in place by Suleiman's masons in 1541 using coarse mortars and recycled stones. Each phase, First Temple, Herodian, Byzantine, Umayyad, Ottoman, has left its mark. The result is a palimpsest, a gate that is both ancient and layered, its physical timeline revealed not by rumor, but by the careful reading of stone. 3 theories compete to explain the meaning of the sealed Golden Gate and the recent surge of claims about its movement. Each theory reveals not just a different reading of the stones, but the hopes and suspicions that surround Jerusalem's eastern wall. The first is the prophetic interpretation. For many evangelical Christians and some Jewish believers, the sealed gate stands as a sign that ancient promises are on the verge of fulfillment. Every rumor of shifting stones is charged with significance, echoing Ezekiel's command that the gate remain shut until the arrival of the Messiah. Ministries and prophecy forums treat the gate's closure as a living symbol, and viral videos are embraced as possible signs that Jesus, and for some the long-awaited Messiah, is about to return. The supposed movement of the gate is seen as a supernatural warning, a crack in the wall between present reality and prophecy. This view draws on centuries of longing and the conviction that God's timetable is unfolding in real time. The motivation is to awaken faith, spur repentance, and prepare for a world transformed by divine intervention. The second theory is skeptical and naturalistic. Historians, archaeologists, and engineers see no credible evidence of movement. They note no seismic event, no official survey, and no photographic proof. The gate's closure is explained as a military measure ordered by Suleiman the Magnificent, not a mystical act. The Muslim cemetery outside the gate, they argue, grew from burial tradition, not as a calculated block against prophecy. Viral claims are dismissed as digital manipulation or recycled footage. For this camp, the silence of the gate is ordinary, a testament to limestone's endurance and the persistence of legend. Their motivation is to anchor the debate in evidence, to separate fact from fervor, and to resist wishful thinking. A third theory blends politics and conspiracy. Here, the gate becomes a flashpoint in the contest for Jerusalem's sacred geography. Some allege hidden renovations, secret tunnels, or covert actions by Israeli or Jordanian authorities. Rumors of movement are seen as manufactured, meant to inflame passions or distract from real changes. The motivation is to expose hidden agendas and warn against manipulation by powerful interests. These three lenses, prophetic, skeptical, and political, shape the debate over the Golden Gate, each drawing on different sources of authority and revealing what is truly at stake. In an age where viral stories outpace verified facts, the Golden Gate stands unmoved, its silence fueling faith, controversy, and longing. Today, more people watch, wait, and argue over digital signs than ever step near its stones. The true test is not whether the gate shifts, but whether hearts remain open to truth. Prophecy endures, and discernment matters more than ever. What do you see when you look at the gate? Share your thoughts below.